Hello everyone. So in previous session we have seen about the get metadata activity and for each loop iterator, and inside that for each loop we have seen that copy activity. So adding to that, in today's session we will see the application of if iterator activity that we have in the ADF pipeline. So today's scenario is in the storage account under the input folder, we have various files. So the requirement is we need to only copy the files from input to output folder whose file size is greater than 0 MB. So there is no use of files with 0 MB, right? As data is not present inside that. So while moving the files from input to output folder, or while copying the files from input to output folder, so we need to check the file size. And if the file size is greater than 0 MB, then only we need to copy that file from input to output folder. So for this requirement, so first of all, like we need to get the metadata of this input folder. So what are the files available in that input folder? We need to get that metadata of the input folder. So I am using the get metadata activity and configuring the dataset to the input folder, and I am getting the child items of that input folder as a get metadata activity output. So that output is in the form of an array. So I am passing that array output, in the sense child items, to my for each loop. So what for each loop will do, it will pick one item at a time from the array and pass inside the activities in its loop. So here I am getting the list of files and I am passing that to the my for each loop activity, and in that for each loop activity again I am using the get metadata to get that particular file name and file size. So here we need to check if file size is greater than 0 MB, right? So definitely I need to have that file size. So for that purpose, I'm using one more get metadata activity inside the for each loop, where I am getting that particular file name and its file size. So this file size I am checking in my if activity. So if that file size is greater than 0, so inside the if activity I have true condition and false. So if the file size is greater than 0, under the true, I am keeping my copy activity to move that particular file from input to output folder. If the item size is less than 0, I am ignoring the file. I am not involving that in my copy activity. So like that, in my application, I am using the if activity to check if file size is greater than 0, then perform the copy activity under the true class. If file size is less than 0, I am just ignoring that file. So we'll see the same how to implement in the pipeline in ADF. So here I'm going for a new pipeline and I'm naming it as check and load. So file size, check and load. So firstly, I want to get the metadata of the folder, like what are the files present in that folder. So I'm naming it as folder metadata. So the get metadata activity, for easy understanding purpose or friendly name, I'm giving it as folder metadata. So inside this, like I want going to create the data set, as my storage is Azure Data Lake Gen 2, and here I'm choosing the binary format. So I want to move all type of files, whether it is CSV, Excel, or text. So that's why I'm choosing the binary format. And I'm naming it as data source under folder. Dataset DS stands for dataset source folder. So already I have linked service from ADF to storage account, and I'm giving my input folder here. So from this get metadata of the folder, what I want the child items. Okay. So I'm just validating, and I want to check the output of this folder metadata. So if you see in the child items, like I got the list of file names and the type of that, whether it is a folder or a file, but I won't get the file size here. Why? Because I configured it to a folder. So at folder level, what are the files or what are the subfolders available? Only that information I will get here. In order to get the file size, again I pass this particular file name to get metadata, then I will get that file size. So in order to loop item by item in that array, I am using my iterator for each. So I am naming it as loop each file. So what is the input for my for each loop? So since there is no connection setup in between these two activities, I am not getting this get metadata output here. So I will give a, so here under the add dynamic content, I can see that activity outputs. So I named it as folder metadata, and this metadata child items I need into my for each loop. So inside this for each loop, next I will have one more get metadata activity to get the item size of that particular item. So file size of that particular file name. So here I'm choosing the get metadata, and here I'm naming it as file metadata. So earlier we named it as folder metadata. Why? Because it is giving the information inside the folder, and this get metadata inside the for each loop is giving us information of that particular file name and file size. So I'm configuring the dataset for this file metadata, naming it as dataset underscore file name underscore file metadata. So here I'm configuring to the input folder, and that file name I will pass it dynamically through a parameter. So I will leave it as blank. So now I want to add a parameter into the dataset. So I will open it in the edit mode, and here I will add the parameter called file name. File name to get metadata. So here definitely when we configure the dataset at particular file level, so we need to give the file name. So under this add dynamic content, I will pass this parameter created under this dataset. So this dataset I used in my get metadata. So here where I am getting that file name. So I am getting the file name from my for each loop, right? So I will give that at the rate of item dot name. So to this data set, I am getting the value from the for each loop. So in for each loop, there will be an array, means list of items. So that loop will pass item by item into the activities present inside it. So that item by item I am getting here from at the red dot item name, which value I am passing to my dataset level parameter. Okay, so we'll validate till here. So from this get metadata, what I want the file name, item name, and item size. Validate. So we'll see now what this folder metadata and file metadata inside the for each loop will return us. So totally how many objects are available inside the folder, input folder. So that many times the for each loop will execute. So if I see here the output of this folder metadata, so there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So totally 7 files and one folder. So for all those, the file metadata will execute. And if we see what is the output of file metadata, so it captured the file name as item name and its size. So my requirement is to only copy the files whose size is greater than 0 MB. So if I go to my input folder, so if you see here, this January is less than, this January is equal to 0 size. So I don't want this file to move into my output folder, and rest of the files are greater than 0. So I just want to move only those files into my output folder. So in order to check that file size here, I will use this if activity. So from this item size, I will check whether the item size is greater than 0 or not by using the if activity under these conditionals. So I will establish the connection in between these two. So under this here expression, we can write whether the outcome is true or false. So add dynamic content. So in order to check whether it is greater than 0 or not, I will go to this system defined functions. So logical function. So here I have an argument called greater. So basically this greater will have two arguments. So in the first argument, I will give that item size. So which is coming from this file metadata. So file metadata dot item name, file name, and item size. So file metadata is an activity. So from that activity, we are getting the list of outputs. In that output, I am taking this size. So I am checking whether it is greater than 0 or not. So greater function will have two arguments. So it will check whether the first argument is greater than second argument or not. So if this condition is true, so I'm adding one more activity inside the true condition of that if. So what I want to do, if that condition is true, I want to copy that file from input to output folder. Okay, so source, I'm creating the dataset for the source, binary, dataset underscore copy activity source, linked service, browse input folder. Okay, so to this input folder, again, I will create one more parameter at this copy activity dataset level. File name at copy activity. So here I am getting this input value of this dataset level parameter. So I'm giving that under the file name. Okay, so here how I'm getting this file name from the output of the file metadata, right? So activity outputs. So file metadata. So under the file metadata, I have the item name, which is the name of that particular file whose size is greater than 0. So sync, I will give my output folder. So already there is a data set. So I am using that same. So the false condition I'm leaving as it is. Like in the false, I'm not giving anything. So it will ignore. If the condition is fail, it will ignore. But if the condition is true, the copy activity will move the file from input to output. Condition in the sense like checking the file size is greater than 0 or not. So we'll validate this. Sync must be binary. Okay. So sync, I think this is sync. Maybe that one, the existing one, what I have chosen is of CSV format. So I'm choosing the binary format. Dataset underscore sync copy activity. Just up to the output folder. Yeah, now validate. No errors were found. Just come to the so this get metadata will get the metadata of the folder level, and the list of child items will be passed into the for each. So this for each will loop item by item in that array. So I'm again using the file level metadata to get that file size, and that file size I'm checking whether it is greater than 0 or not in the if condition. If the file size is greater than 0 in the true part, I'm running that copy activity to move the file from input to output. So I'm running it in the debug mode. So if I go here to the output folder, so I should not get that January file as the January file size is 0. Like in the SQL or PySpark, once we understand the requirement, then we need to go for the algorithm how to implement or achieve that output. So first frame what are the activities that we have in this ADF pipeline, and for the requirement which activity we need to use. So that is the first analysis thing, and in that activity what are the options we have. So for example, get metadata, we can get either folder level metadata or file level metadata. So at folder level we will use the child items. At file level we will use the item name, item size, or last modified date, etc. So like that, if activity, copy activity, source and sync options. So the pipeline, all these activities got completed. If I go and refresh my output folder, see I got only the files of whose size is greater than 0. So that January file which I am having in the input folder, since the file size is 0, it is not moved from input to output folder. So in next session, we will see the filter, switch, until, so that the iterations and conditional part will get completed, and we will see one by one in this general category. So far we have seen this get metadata, and going forward we will see the other activities that we have under the general. Thanks for your time.